Thank you all for doing this.
Of course.
So, twice. Welcome to Lawcast to Cozza Law Group. And he doesn't want me to do this, but I don't care. It's my show. I want to formally thank you, Mr. Cozza, Mr. Rocco Cozza, not only for the friendship, of course, but also for the sponsorship and for what you provide us to this show and enabling us to keep the conversations going.
It's my pleasure, man.
It means a lot.
Absolutely.
Second Lawcast, and we're going to go a little freeform this time.
Love it.
You know, because we have the big kahuna, we have the master litigator, and we have the general.
That name is sticking, definitely. That was definitely sticking. We have to remember that tomorrow.
And we need to get Ben and Mia's background, but let's weave it through conversation. So can you go back maybe and talk about the inception of the law firm? And you met Mia, and I know this for a fact because I just heard it. She was employee number one.
Employee number one, yeah. It'll be 4 years this month. Because I started, when I left corporate, I started the firm in 2019 was really the year I said, okay, I'm going to do this and nothing else. And then started working, realized I needed some help. I didn't really know the help I needed. I just needed help. I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of shit I got to do and I need someone to help me do it. So lo and behold, Mia applied for the job, came and interviewed, very professional, very... I even think you sat up straight. You had a notebook. She did. She brought in a notebook.
Sit up straight now.
No, but she had this it was like a spiral bound notebook. It was like I think you were taking notes and writing things down and had questions written. And I was like, "You're hired. You're hired." And then
that is not true. It took him weeks.
It didn't take me weeks
to respond back to me.
Okay, let's hear the real story now.
I would like to hear your
weeks of following up.
Wait a second. Were you making a test? Was it a test?
No, I think it might have been a week.
Maybe 2.5, 3. I sent the thank you.
You did.
And then he said, I'm thinking about it.
That's required.
I don't think I ever said I was thinking about it. I'm going to go back through my email and find this now. I don't think that's the case.
I'm very curious.
I'm going to go back tonight and search. But yes, mutual friend. She also recommended that I hire. She said, Mia's a badass. You got to hire her. I'm like, okay. I'm like, why is she badass? She's like, she will cut somebody. I'm like, all right, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Let's do it. So
that's a qualification for you.
Yeah. You started working. We sat in the same office, literally this close. Had no idea what we were doing. I'm like, I feel like there's probably stuff you could do, but I don't know what that is. I was still answering the phone. She's like, I feel like I should answer the phone. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should still do it. I did not know. It was very weird. I didn't know how to use somebody. And then it just kind of grew over time. And it was just I feel like I should be here more hours. I was like, yeah, I feel like you probably should. It's getting busy. But yeah. And then here we are 4 years later. It was.
So how many months were you there before the pandemic hit?
When did it hit? March?
It was March, 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 6 months. Yeah. And then, we still worked for me during the pandemic.
Remotely?
Still did stuff. And then we moved into the Carnegie location.
September.
Yeah. It was just her and I. We took an entire floor of a building.
We thought it was huge.
Yeah.
We're what are we going to do with all this space?
Well, for two people, it was pretty big.
It was.
It was huge.
But it was only a couple $100 more than we were paying at this Regis space. So I'm like, well, yeah, it's closer to both of our houses. I'm like, we'll figure it out. Eventually we'll have people. And then Matt joined. And then a year and a half later, we're like, we need way more space. And then we moved to where we are now. And a year in, we're like, we're probably going to need more space soon. So
ordering cubicles.
Yeah, I know. We have cubes now. It's weird. It's definitely weird. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, definitely. Yeah. She's kept us in line.
So what is your current quote unquote title besides being the general?
My current title is Director of Operations and Client Services.
She runs the show.
Not sure exactly what that means or what I do, but it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Anything non-attorney-ish, I would say, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your role has grown quite a bit. Because again, you started as my first admin, 10 hours a week.
Not answering phones.
Not even sending engagement letters. I think I was still sending engagement letters out.
Yeah, wouldn't allow me to do that. I wasn't allowed to do much.
But he knew he needed you there.
Correct.
He wasn't sure what you were actually going to do.
I don't know why. But then I always hire in anticipation of need. That's kind of how Ben joined, right? Like, I felt like we had litigation that we could bring in, so we looked for someone that could bring that, and Ben came on board, and we put Ben in the closet, and literally, he was in the closet.
My office was literally a closet.
Okay, so when did you join?
Almost 2 years ago. It would have been November of 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. The actual closet. I shared a light switch with Matt, so when he would leave for the day, I'd be like, well, I guess it's time to wrap it up.
That's our old office, man.
You did have a window, though.
I had a window.
Yeah.
It was like touching my back.
So you'll never forget that, right?
No, never.
You'll never forget that.
Never.
That
Character building.
I mean, it was literally like when we look back, like, from where we are now to where we were, it's like, holy shit. Like,
You know, it's happened so fast.
yeah, it did. And it's just, when I look back, it's like, it'll always be great memories, because it's like, it was a sweat box. Like, we had window air conditioners that sound like jet engines.
I remember.
Like, we had a bathroom that was in the middle of the hallway, so when anybody was taking a shit, you knew. Like, you just knew what was going on.
Me and shared a wall.
It kind of had like a
did.
grade school vibe to it, you know, an old grade school when you go in there.
Yeah, the toilet was on your wall. I forgot about that.
The best is whenever it overflowed and the law firm from downstairs called and said, did something happen? There is water running down my walls. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell them. Like, I'm sorry.
We overflowed a toilet. Someone ate a little bit too much Mexican, and we got you wet. Sorry. Not our problem. Call the landlord.
Is there one of Gabe's visits?
No, it definitely wasn't one of his visits. It was, we did have, remember the one, we had one client.
It was a client, probably.
We had a client, won't name who the client was. They came in and literally blew up our bathroom. Like, literally did.
It was bad.
It was, I mean, bad. I mean, it was aggressive.
Toxic.
But because it's like, it was literally like, I had the office at the end of the hall.
Right.
So I could see right down. Me and Matt were like right next to the bathroom. And then the kitchen was right there. And then Ben was kind of around the corner, you know, on the backside of Matt. So, like, you knew what was going on right there. There was nowhere to hide. And
I never used that bathroom. I don't think I ever used it once.
You're afraid to.
No, there's no chance I used it.
It was, I mean, it was definitely, it was a character builder. I will tell you that. And then the worst part is, if you had a meeting in the conference room with a client, it would get so hot in there, and you couldn't turn the air conditioner on because it was so loud. So you'd literally turn it on all day. Client would come in. I would just be pouring sweat. Where I would walk out of the room backwards just so they wouldn't see my back, like soaking wet, because it would get so hot in there. Except we were like the only floor that didn't have central air.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the heat on the bottom floor would just rise, and it
was
just
an old Victorian house.
It was
wasn't
the worst. It was the worst.
The best part was, and if the landlord's listening, just
It's okay.
ignore this, but the floors up there were like so slanted. Like, it was like you'd walk up a mountain to go through the hallway.
Your desk drawers didn't stay closed.
Yeah, they would like open up.
But it was very cheap. It was a cheap rent. It was cheap rent.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, it was. That was a whole. I mean, there was like fights in the alleyway. Like,
That one, the funeral the one day, we're like, what is going on out there?
yeah, it was a huge funeral. I mean, it was. I mean, it was a character builder, and it was. We've grown from that quite a bit, and but it will always be a place that I'll always remember. It's like I drive by it every day, and I'm like, that's where it all started. And like I didn't think we'd be out of there in less than 2 years, and it was just holy shit. Like, we've grown. Like, now we're like in this space, and when we took this space, like going from that to this, like I was shitting my pants.
That was a huge leap.
Yeah, like I was like, I gotta sign this lease. Like, this is like a $500,000 lease. Like,
I still remember when we went to go look at it.
yeah, it was crazy, and it was. Like, I was not anticipating this space. Like, I'm like, oh, we'll get something like a step up. But it's like when they showed us this, I'm like, oh, we gotta do it.
You went straight to Class A space.
Yeah, I mean, they knew how to sell me. They're like, let's show them the good space first, and then everywhere else will look like shit. I'm like, yeah,
You guys are in building 0. How does that work? Right?
Yeah, I think because when they built out Foster Plaza, ours was the last building. So they already had like 1 through 10, and then they put that one there. So it was building 0, I believe. I could have just made that up, though, but that's what makes logical sense.
I think there's a lot of misnumbering up there, if I am
there is.
correct.
Does it leap across, like, numerically?
Well, we were building 4, but it went like 1, 2, 3, 5, 4.
Correct.
It's weird. Like, I don't.
Yeah. Public school math.
Yes, exactly. Yes, but it's. I mean, I love it there now. I love the space, and it's become home. Definitely. It smells nice now, like air. It's smelling nice. It's like I was walking through the office, and it smells like Christmas or the holidays in here. I'm like, what is that?
That would be Jasmine. She, it's like apple cinnamon in
Yeah,
her
there's
hue.
something. Yeah, I'm like, it smells so good in here. I'm like, what is this?
Brandon has his diffuser on.
There's a lot of scents going on. It's like an apple, and I don't know what Arian has up front, and then Brandon does have.
Peach,
Yeah.
I believe.
Peach.
Yeah, it's like a cornucopia of smells. It's very.
At least it isn't bad Mexican food.
No, it's definitely not. It's absolutely not.
Folks, where to go with this?
A lot of places.
I'm going to ask about the law and social media and the public. Because I kind of get the vibe that there's a lot of bad advice out there. Now, if you folks are business attorneys, I get it. We're not going to go down the criminal attorney circumstance. But on the business front, everything from LLCs to insurance to getting advisory roles, just everything is just like a cornucopia. And they're dumbing it. The advice is being dumbed down to the public, making very complex things appear to be like remedial. And I get the feeling that a lot of people are going to put themselves in a bad way if they pay attention to save a dollar.
Yeah.
They pay attention to free social media as opposed to seeking out a real trusted advisor.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. They'll keep Ben busy with litigation because I think there's a lot of bad advice, just online in general, even not only on social media, just on the internet. And I think people try and lawyer, they're a Google lawyer or the social media lawyer. They think because they read something or watched a TikTok video, they know what to do. There are so many times where I will talk to a potential client and they'll start a conversation. I'm like, well, let's reverse that and let's start over. Like, that's not true. None of what you said is true. Like, they'll have an idea in their head because they heard something, or they want to overcomplicate things by setting up this, 10-tiered structure. I'm like, you have one property. Like, you own one house right now. Like, you don't need to set up the corporate structure of Grant Cardone. You own a single-family house in Crafton. Like, let's start somewhere. But I think people try and diminish professions and I don't mean diminish. I think they just try and they oversimplify what we do. I think, and I don't know if you see it in litigation. I think people just oversimplify things.
I think it's a lot more prevalent with social media for the stuff you guys deal with in corporate, but because you'll see a lot of that stuff on social media about set up this LLC for this and this for that, and how many clients do you get that call in that say, I saw this on Google or I saw this on Instagram or we did it through LegalZoom because it was $100 or whatever it is. Like, I think that is very prevalent. Yeah,
and it's they're selling people a bill of goods. It's false. Like, they're not providing appropriate advice. And it's like I watched a video of these guys on social media. Like, it's just easy to set up an LLC. Go to your state's website, do this, go get your EIN, and then you're good. I'm like, no, that's not really. You need a lot more than that. And if someone does it that way and they get sued, they're screwed. But these people just believe it because this social media, these 26-year-old dudes have, 1 million followers. It's like, well, does that mean they're fucking lawyers? Like, we went to school for this. I don't try and give medical advice. It's just, social media is great. Like, it has a purpose, but I think it's, for professions like ours, it's creating an uphill battle for us. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I would imagine, you do it. You use social media in a genuine way to give out significant advice. And I'm sure there are other attorneys that do it as well, too. But the bulk of the stuff is kind of crap that you see out there. I mean, I'm not, am I wrong?
No. I mean, I think that's social media in general. I think there's just.
Oh, we're going to go there.
I just think
we're going to open it up. Don't worry. But I just, on the specific part of law, though, just for this moment of the conversation, it's kind of frightening.
Yeah.
Because I think back to missteps I had made of not enlisting your services or your type of services all those years ago. I think I would have been better off making that mistake than taking the advice of things I would have seen if social media had existed then. I could have seen myself falling into that trap. Well, hell, I can do it for free. And they're saying all I have to do is this, and this. And, I could see myself being sucked into that. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't have to face that.
Yeah. The common response, and you deal with clients a lot too, the common response I give clients when they start trying to go down that, well, I can just do it myself. I said, look, if you're not willing to spend the money to build the foundation of your house, your business, you're not ready to be in business. Because if you can't see the value in putting the foundation together the right way for a couple $100 more, you're not going to succeed in business. You're not ready. And I will be very blunt with people. Because it really boils down to that. When we're talking about just taking a company, setting up a company, you may save a couple $100 doing it yourself online, but you're going to screw it up. And you're not going to be set up the right way. And then shit's going to happen, and it's going to cost you 10x what you saved to fix that problem. And it's just, you probably deal with people that they call in and ask those questions all the time.
Correct. And I think oftentimes after Ben deals with the litigation piece, we have clients coming back and saying, okay, well, now we need all of our contracts reviewed. Yeah. Because clearly they weren't drafted correctly, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But we do see that often.
And I think, too, with Ben and Brandon do on the litigation side, I think that opens clients' eyes. Because there's a lot of things happen that are holy shit, would have never anticipated that. We can tell, Matt and Em and I in the corporate group, we can tell them these things. Sometimes they'll listen, sometimes they won't. But when it actually becomes real, when Ben and Brandon have to step in and deal with an issue, then it's oh shit. Then they see the money they need to spend to get it right. And I think it just, you deal with that. When people, it's crazy. It's insane.
And if you just take the time up front to set it up the right way, and it's not even just unfucking it to redo it the right way, it's then you're spending thousands of dollars litigating if it's a partnership dispute or an employment dispute, whatever it is. That could have just been avoided if you took the time and spent a little bit of money up front to just get it done the right way.
Yeah.
So
it is. Litigation is it's a very expensive process, and not because of the rates or the fees. It's just the sheer amount of time that goes into it. Mm-hmm. And clients, need to understand that. And I try and make that very clear. Hey, if you don't do this and you have to litigate, it's going to cost, tens of thousands of dollars. When if you spend $500 to $700 right now to put it together the right way, the probability of that happening will be decreased tremendously. And it's just, they don't always see it that way.
Are ill-devised partnerships a big problem for you folks in regards to business partnerships?
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine unwinding that type of stuff, because I'm not going to say that all partnerships are a bad idea. That would just be, again, my opinion. But I've never really encountered any good ones. So, they always seem to end salty. At a minimum.
Yeah, what would you say? You see it a lot more than we do, and all the shit you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's finding the right partner up front is probably the biggest step, right? Because and people always, when they go into a business, they're like, "This is my friend. This is somebody that I want to work with," right? But then when they don't put the right stuff in place, there's not an agreement. Okay, well then when something happens, what do you do? Mm-hmm. How do you resolve it when your operating agreement or whatever it is doesn't tell you how to resolve it? Then you end up in a situation where you're litigating it. So we do see a lot of issues with that.
And a lot of times it's just, people looking at it you're in the honeymoon phase. Yeah, we're going to start this business. We're going to make a shitload of money. It's cool. Okay, how about, I get it. Awesome. High five. Let's plan for when this shit does hit the fan. Because I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm going to tell you, it will hit the fan at some point.
No one wants to do that, though.
No, but it's uncomfortable. But to me, it's like it is uncomfortable. It is, but it's kind of like it's the same thing with estate planning. Like thinking about your own mortality is not something anybody wants to do. But we just flip the script and say, think about your legacy. Like think about the legacy. How do you want that legacy to be left? Like that's really what estate planning is. Same thing with a partnership, right? It's how do you want this partnership to carry on? And yes, you get along now, and we hope that always happens. But it's our job to mitigate risk, and we have to help you put in place things and mechanisms that when you guys fucking hate each other, which eventually may happen, we can unwind it very quickly and efficiently. Because if we don't have these in place, you're going to have Ben unwind this through litigation that's going to cost you $20,000 to $50,000.
And wouldn't you rather know what's going to happen with this business that you just built up front rather than just like, oh, well, have a lawyer deal with it now?
Yeah, and no one wants to have those discussions. I mean, and then they got to pay the bills, and then that's what VA's got to deal with them because they're just like this.
Like, well, who's going to pay this?
Right.
Like we had an LLC. I mean, 2 weeks later, they're like, we're done, and I'm like, what do you mean? We just formed this.
That has happened. That is a true story. That has happened.
Wait. They purchased an LLC service from you. They got incorporated. 2 weeks later, they're no longer in business, and now they're fighting as to who pays the fee to create the LLC.
Correct.
Yeah.
The LLC that gets all taken care of up front, but then they wanted the paperwork drawn up to
end it.
The end of the partnership.
2 weeks later.
Not even.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we can't really just unscramble the frittata like that.
That is a Mattism.
That is a Mattism.
He says you can't unscramble the frittata. I mean, that's what he says. Like, you can't unscramble. But it's like, I mean, it's like my best friend that wanted to get a divorce on his wedding night. They got into a fight, and I mean, it was fine, but like, got a text message in the middle of the night, like, draw up the papers, we're done. I'm like, well, let's rethink this. So, but people do, like, because again, they're not thinking, when I deal with people that are partner or getting into a partnership, the first question I ask is, how well do you know each other? Like, how well do you like each other? Like, is this something, I get you guys have a great idea. Like, cool, but you have to, who's going to do what? Because that's the big problem. Like, we form a partnership. Who's the one paying the bills? Who's the one talking to the clients? Who's the one, dealing with vendors? Like, you've got to think through these things. You can't just go into a business and say, we'll figure it out. Because it always ends badly.
So, let me ask you this question. Do you, as you sit here tonight, do you think partnerships in general or specific are just a bad idea?
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends what the business is. It depends who your partnership's with. Mm-hmm. Depends how the agreement's structured, what provisions you have in place.
Yeah.
Depends who your attorney is.
Yeah.
Depends
It'd be a great idea if you set them up the right way.
Yeah.
And if you have, like Rocco said, if you define your roles up front,
yeah.
Some people have better skill sets doing different things, and if you can bring those together to create something great, I mean, awesome. But there's got to be a delineation in what people are doing.
It's exactly right. I mean, that's really what it is. As long as you can articulate who's doing what, partnerships are a great thing. I mean, that's why they have them. I think they work. I've been in partnerships still to this day with business partners that work really well because we stay in our lane. Like, I know I'm not going to do, like, when I was in real estate partnerships, I'm like, I'm not going to fix shit. Let's just be honest. Like, if you want me to paint, I'm going to fuck it all up. I will do the legal stuff. I will do the deals. I will evict people. I will do, like, that's my lane. I will stay there. My buddy Matt, it's like, hey, you fix stuff. Like, you're handy. You can go do that stuff. My other buddy, he did all the accounting because he's an accountant. So we all stayed in our lanes, and that worked till we sold all of our properties.
But okay, playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Do people generally stay in their lanes?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
I think it depends. Honestly, I think the bigger problem is people don't know what their lane is. Like, I think that
sounds like an out to me. I would venture to say people know what their lanes are. They just
I
don't
don't
want to stay in them.
I don't think it's an out. I think because people overestimate their ability. Like, that's really what it boils down to. It's it's just they overestimate their ability. Like, I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. And I try and
most people know that about themselves.
I think people have a.
I mean, because you guys play a there's a lot of psychology in what you do, right?
A lot, absolutely. I think a lot of the problems boil down to people overestimate their abilities.
Communication
is a big problem too. Yeah, absolutely.
Rocco, do you think that not only do people overestimate their abilities, but on the flip side, overestimate what their partners are going to contribut?
Absolutely. That's a great point. 100%. I think, again, and that goes to your point, there's this lack of communication, right? Everybody needs to understand who's doing what and who's contributing what. And that's a great point, because I think there's a lot of assumptions being made. Like, I had a discussion earlier today with a client that was in the office. We were just talking about their business, and I said, and I was just talking to this person about, just running a business. I said, the biggest problem I see with businesses is we all make assumptions that the other people know what we want or know what we're thinking, when there's really just a lack of communication. It's like, I think this person should be doing this, and they think, well, I think I'm doing it this way. I've never articulated or communicated what my expectations are, and they never communicated back. So there's this gap in communication that I think causes all the problems, especially in partnerships, because people just don't communicate. I think we have a hard time communicating what we actually want and expect from each other, especially in partnerships. That's where I see the biggest problems come up.
I would probably say that it makes a lot of sense as a layman just listening, because we've talked about on this show so many times that the communication problem probably always existed with partnerships, but imagine now how even additionally difficult it is that people just don't want to talk to each other anymore. There's like that fence now of like technology too, right?
Everybody wants a text message or an email, and I know some people prefer one style of communication over the other. Instead of like emailing back and forth, I'd rather just pick up the phone and get whatever I need answered. It's just such a direct form. Nobody likes to talk on the phone anymore.
Yeah. So imagine going into a partnership where you're going to communicate with your partner
via text message, probably.
Yeah. I mean, how do you do that?
Well, that's the expectations you have to set up front, right? It's like, I think, again, where people go wrong is they don't, and I've done this, like, I assume a person communicates a certain way when I don't really know. And I've never asked the person, like, what is your preferred method of communication? Because some people true, like, and I think I've talked about this before, where there was all those studies where, like, they said millennials won't answer the phone. And the study was, and it was not because they don't want to talk. It's like they want time to think of a response. They don't like to think on their feet. They want to really be thoughtful in their response. Where like my generation, like I'm ask me a question, I'll talk on the spot, no problem. It's just there's that lack of understanding of one another. So I think that's where communication gaps come in, because when I heard that, I'm like, I get it, I understand. I said that's why those people text message, and they'll send a long text message and write a long response, because they want the time to actually put together a thoughtful response. And when I look at that, I'm like, that makes sense. Or I'm like, just pick up the fucking phone and call me, like, or answer my call. Like, what the fuck?
As a millennial, I'll tell you that's spot on. if I don't know why somebody's calling me, I'm not answering the phone. So,
but no, I mean, look, I agree with that, and there are certain times where I will do that too, or I won't answer the phone if I know this is going to be a long conversation. Like, I don't have the time to talk right now, so I'll just be like, "Hey, I'll call you back." But I get that. So you do agree with that.
I have to think about, like, if somebody's calling me and I'm like, "Oh, I know what they want to talk about. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. I'm not answering it."
So when you were younger, growing up, did you communicate from a cell phone, or did you communicate from a home phone?
I don't think. I mean, cell phones were like probably not. Yeah, cell phones probably weren't until I was like.
They used to hang on the wall. You were talking about it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't think I had a cell phone until I was probably 10 or 11. What's that? 2005.
10. So like when the time when you start like communicating with your friends on your own.
Yeah, and before that, I was still in the generation where it's like, all right, if you want your friend to come over, you got to pick up the home phone, call their house phone, talk to their parents, that whole thing. So kind of in the mix of them, but I do prefer to have time to think about what I'm going to say. You know that.
Yeah. No.
Anytime Mike comes into the office, I'm like, I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Mike, because I don't have an answer.
On the spot.
Yeah. So.
But that makes sense, right? I think
absolutely.
And that's just the way you communicate. We're like, I'm the opposite of that. Like I like to be put on the spot because I feel like I think my best when I'm on the spot. Like because I'll overthink things. Like if someone gives me too much time to think, my brain goes 1,000 different directions, and I'm going to solve problems that aren't even problems until I create them.
You want to put something to bed if possible right away.
That's exactly. I want to address it, solve it, and move on. Because if I have to think about it, then my brain is just like all over the fucking board.
You probably avoid a lot of like anxiety or procrastination that way too. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna get this done.
That's exactly what it is. It's really because I know myself. Like I know if someone gives me something to think about, I will, because I can't turn my brain off. Like I'm always analyzing. And this is the problem I dealt with Laura. It's like I just ask questions. Like that's I'm wired to ask questions. So if you address something to me, like I'm going to keep asking questions just because that's what I do. So if someone gives me something to think about, or like, hey, just drops me an email and there's no chance to sort it out, I'm all over the board. So I just want to, if there's a problem, let's solve it. Let's put it on the table. Let's find the solution and move on. So then it's put to bed, because I have too much stuff coming at me every day. I just want to put these issues to bed. So yeah, you're right. It helps me definitely avoid procrastination and anxiety. Definitely.
I get that feeling that Mia doesn't need any time to contemplate.
Do you? That's a good question.
Contemplate.
Before you respond.
No.
Yeah.
I wish I would think before I would
You're
respond.
not alone in that, my friend. Trust me.
Unfortunately, no. I just respond. I think of something and it's like, bam.
But well, no, I would say there are moments where you'll think through things more. Like you're not reactionary all the time.
Depends on my mood.
We need to sign outside your office. What mood you're in that day.
Yeah.
Like we need one for Matt too, right?
The general is in.
Or like when Matt had a good night's sleep or didn't have a good night's sleep. Like he slept very well last night, so he was just a different person today. So it's but I do think, like, knowing you for as long as I've known you, I feel like you think through things when you need to.
Yeah.
I think you will react to certain things, but I think you don't always just react. You know, that's how I see it. But I mean, I could be wrong.
If I'm pissed off, different story.
I think attorneys have a fascinating part of the fascinating. How do I say this? A portion of what you do involves psychology and dealing with people's emotions and relationships with each other and you as a firm, you as an attorney. But that psychology part in real estate, we do that too. We see the kaleidoscope of emotions, right? So being that we're dealing with sometimes volatile people, emotions, in regards to business, let me throw something out at you. If you heard the phrase, everything has a shelf life, so you get to contemplate before you answer. What do you think of that phrase? Do you think it is applicable in general to our entire world, or do you think that probably is not correct? That there's a lot of long-term relationships / arrangements that do work out. Everything doesn't have a shelf life. What side of the equation are you on there? That's the first time he's been stunned.
No,
Can't answer the question.
I don't agree with that. I think shelf life is dependent upon the parties in the relationship. Like, I determine in that relationship whether it's going to have a shelf life or not, depending on the effort I put into it. Like, I look at everything as relationship. Like, that's how I operate in my life. Like, nothing's transactional to me. So if I'm meeting with a client, if I'm meeting with a person, I'm developing a relationship. The only time I believe it has a shelf life if I choose for it to have a shelf life, or if the other person chooses for it to have a shelf life. But I don't think the default is it has a shelf life. I think that's for the people to determine.
Maybe I didn't phrase it right. Would you say that most things in this world have a shelf life, as opposed to?
What do you mean by most things? I'm going to lawyer you now.
Yeah. Okay. Most ventures, most relationships.
I don't think most things have a shelf life.
You don't?
No, that, to me, it's a pessimistic view.
Well, yeah,
I'm an
optimist.
optimist.
You can label it that way. I get it, but the reality is, when you look at divorce, the statistics are the statistics.
Sure.
So you can say, if you look at marriage in the modern era, yeah, you can say that most marriages are going to end at some point with both people still living.
Okay.
You know, that there's an example of a union within society that has a shelf life. You know, and I wonder if in ventures, especially partnerships, you know, would you say that, you know, most ventures together have a shelf life? It might be a long time off, but it's going to end at some point.
I'd like to look at everything as a reason, season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
Oh, please elaborate.
Yeah.
Like, so whether it's a venture or a life event, or like it's either came into your life for like a reason and you learned from it and you were able to move on, or it was a season and, you know, it's a little longer than a reason and it ended for whatever reason, whether it was yourself or the venture or whatever the reason was. But, you know, you learned a lot more from that and you were kind of sad that it ended, but still though, it was a good thing that it ended. It was a good thing that it happened and a good thing that it ended.
Yeah.
Or then there's people or things or events that happen for a lifetime. And those things are, you know, happen, you know?
I would agree with all that.
So like terrible things happen, like deaths and people passing, but like it's horrible, but like you could still make sense of it, you know? So that's the way I like to look at my life.
Yeah.
I agree with both what they said. And actually, I think it goes with both those things that Rocco and Mia said, is to determine if something's going to have a shelf life, it depends a lot on what ingredients you put into it. So if you're going to put in the time, the communication, the right systems or whatever it is up front, maybe that shelf life's going to be a little longer than if you just throw something together and put it on the shelf.
That's a good, like the ingredients. That's a really good point. I think that is, because that is true. Like it's the ingredients you put into it, whether it's a venture, whether it's a relationship. I mean, take just a relationship, a marriage, right? Marriages end, right? But maybe there's not the right ingredients in that marriage. But if the two people are willing to work through the problems and, you know, put in the love and dedication and, you know, the fortitude to work through the ups and downs, and that can last a lifetime. And a lot of marriages do last a lifetime. I think the ones that end is, I think if I look at society today and I look at the marriages that end, I think people are not willing to do the work. Marriage is hard. It's the hardest relationship you can be in, because you're building a life. Two people are coming together to build a life together that is something completely different than what the two of them were used to separately. So you're kind of bringing these unions of families and background and lifestyle together, and I think it's work. People don't, when it gets a little bit difficult, I think people cut bait. And to me, that's just, there's wrong ingredients in that marriage. I think that's a great way to put it. It's the ingredients that go into it. And it really depends on the people. That's how I'm just an optimist.
No, you are. I just always felt like most of my life that most things in life have a shelf life. And it could be great things, and they might be great things for 50 flipping years. But at some point in time, they're going to run its course. And it doesn't always just like emotional relationships. I'm talking like business ventures. Because throughout my life, when I look back at for my years I was paying attention, like this last 40 years, look at corporate America. Look at business in general, right? Think of all of the companies that have come and gone and reformed. The change in business is constant.
Sure.
And that change is somewhat proof of the phrase that the venture, the direction they set is going to change at some point. It's an eventuality. Would you not agree?
Yeah, but I disagree with you with how you're using the phrase. When you say everything has a shelf, like that means it's ending, it's over. What you're talking about with business, I think business is transforming, evolving. Like that's what's happening. Like yes, as technology comes in, like our industry is evolving. Technology is coming into play. AI is coming into play. It's not the legal industry has a shelf life. The legal industry is evolving and transforming. I think it's really how you look at it. Like you're looking at it as like, okay, it comes to an end. It has a shelf life. maybe it's just transformed. It evolved into something
get it.
different.
To use Mia's language is maybe just a new season.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're trying to make you an optimist, man.
Just
no,
as
no.
like communication with the phones, like just asking Ben, like, how did he communicate? So communicating it didn't end.
Right.
There wasn't a shelf life on communication. It has just evolved.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I understand. I
So the telephone, I mean, there wasn't a shelf life on that in particular. It just has evolved.
Yeah.
think about partnerships. Let's
Okay.
go back to this legal question again.
Okay.
So, two people come in, they sit down with you, they want to form a partnership agreement, LLC, they get the whole range of services. They're going to form this new business. In your mind, are you saying to yourself, the odds are very likely that it isn't going to last at some point in time here? Now, it may last and be fruitful, and you wish that for them, for sure. But the reality, in dealing with the reality, is it safe to say odds are likely it's going to have a shelf life? Maybe 2 weeks, maybe 30 years. But that doesn't last forever.
So, I get what you're saying. I just don't like the term.
Okay.
Because I don't think of it as a shelf life. I think of I'm never going to say to a client, this is going to end. It's my job to protect for if it does, right? And put things in place to make it easier if it does. But I don't ever want a client to feel like I think it's going to end. Because I don't. I want every business to be successful.
Understood.
And again, the shelf life is, again, it's an evolution. The evolution may be like we went separate ways, or I'm selling my business, or I'm leaving it to my kids. I just think that shelf life has such a negative connotation.
Get it.
And I don't like that term.
I guess I'm thinking about it more procedurally than I am. Because if you have a partnership, and then let's say the partnership ends and they become an LLC where or a regular corporation, that's just a change within that business. But that initial partnership ended at some point.
But if I look at the statistics, since the firm started, we've probably formed 1,000 LLCs.
Okay.
We've probably had less than 5% of them end.
Okay.
So statistically, if I look at the partnerships that we've created or the companies we've created, a very small amount of them have ended. They may have changed and transformed and evolved and shifted, but they didn't end.
Yeah. I'm playing some Kamala Harris word gymnastics here.
Yeah, I don't like that word, man.
Yeah, I know,
Words
but
are not
just getting called out for my words.
I am going to call you out on that.
Communication. We'll start with Mia. So, because you're like me, I want to pick up the phone, rectify the problem. But first off, make sure I clearly understand what I'm being asked, and then rectify the problem if I can at that moment. Everybody's happy. Hang up the phone. We're done. I'm guessing you're the same way?
Yes.
I'm guessing you're probably not that way.
No, and I don't know if it's just more. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's the particular practice that I'm in, where I'm typically preparing for an argument, or having everything that I need to know before I go into talking to somebody about something. But I'd much prefer the time to think and prepare on something before I talk to somebody about it.
My default is to solve the problem, to the point where I have to tell people, if you're talking, like I've told Laura this, if you're going to talk to me about something, before you start talking, tell me, are you just telling me this for me to listen, or do you need my help? Because my default is to listen to solve the problem. So if someone comes into my office and is talking to me and they're starting to tell, my brain is looking for the problem to solve. Sometimes if someone just wants to vent to me or wants me to listen to something, I say, you have to tell me that up front, because I'm going to try and solve the problem. I want to address things head on. But that's how I've always been. But to your point, you're in a situation where it's hard to do that, right? In litigation,
I would imagine.
You're dealing with conflict every day. So it's...
And talking off the top of your head might not benefit you or the client.
Right.
There might be things that I hadn't thought about while I'm just sitting there, or are there, I just want to make sure that I have the full universe of information, or at least as much as I can, before I try to offer advice or a resolution to the issue.
Is law better practiced when you can actually get people, clients, in the room and have face-to-face conversations, or can you just be quite as effective whether it's via phone or video conference or, heaven forbid, email? I mean, do you have preference? I kind of know what your preferences are.
Is law better practiced, or can I resolve problems better?
Either.
I'd say without clients and people in the room, you can probably do a better job of getting to a creative solution or finding the answers that you need to get to without them there. Obviously, at some point, they need to be involved in the process. I'd say resolving the issue is almost much more easy if they're there in some capacity, because they might, the other lawyer might come to you with something and you might say, well, that's a non-starter. But then the client might say something that you weren't even thinking about. Oh, well, if we could do this, then maybe we could get it done. So there's less back and forth, and it's an easier way to massage it if they're there, I think, at least in some capacity.
What do you think?
Do
you still want the in-face conversation, or would you just prefer to have it through email and texting?
So I'm resolving different issues than Ben's resolving. So,
but your customers could be your own firm, your inner company.
So it depends what I'm dealing with. If it's one of us, obviously, it's just easier to go talk to somebody face to face rather than slacking. I know a lot of people
I agree with that.
Slackers.
I
agree.
Slack. I like Slack. Slack's cool. It's good for quick communication.
What's Slack? Oh, the technology Slack?
It's like I am.
I still don't know what that is.
It's fun.
I mean,
I don't get notified. It doesn't ding.
Is it like a Facebook Messenger just in a company, or how's it work?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a good, if you use it, like companies use it to make quick, like Jake and I were using it today. We were on a call. We were on a due diligence call, and we were using Slack to communicate to each other while we were on this call because we weren't in the same room.
Right.
So it's a way to communicate quickly. Like, instead of having to disrupt, go into someone's office and disrupt them, it's just like, hey, like Arian will Slack me a lot and just say, hey, let me know something. Like, it's like an instant messenger.
How's that different from texting?
It's basically the same thing, but on your computer. So I Slacked Ben today, but then I still got up and was like, hey, did you see my Slack?
And if she didn't come down, I probably wouldn't have saw it, because I'm like me. I'm like, if it's in the office, I'm stopping down to somebody's office, which maybe isn't the most efficient thing, but
yeah, so I'm like, hey, did you see that? And he's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, whatever. But
I have 3 screens, so I keep Slack on one of my screens, so I always see it. But I do like interpersonal communications too. Like, I think that's the way to solve problems.
If it's a client, I'd rather just talk to you versus email you, because you're not going to respond to me depending on what it is. Depends how important it is.
Yeah.
So for efficiency, you all just use the tool that makes the most sense. But what do you prefer? Put you on the spot. What do you actually prefer? If you had your druthers.
Ooh. A client comes to the office every day. That'd be
tough.
I love our clients, but that'd be.
So I would love that. I would sit in a room and talk to a client every single day.
It depends on what needs to be accomplished in the meeting.
Yeah. But I feel like I just look at it. I just look at the relationship differently. So the way I'm wired, I get more information when I'm in a room with a person.
Correct.
Because I'm watching their body language. Client came in today. Like, I knew, reading this person's body language, what that conversation had to be. I went into the meeting with one thing in my head, that we need to talk about this. Reading the person's body language when that client came in, my complete script changed on the fly. But if this person wasn't in the room, I wouldn't have been able to make that flip, and it prevented something from happening. So to me, I want to be in the room, because
it's intangible.
It is, and it's kind of how I've always been wired. Through college, through law school, through my career. I like to read people. I've read books on. I like to understand people, and just by watching how a person's sitting, their movements, what their speech is, where they're looking in the room, how they're communicating, I can pick up on things and really tailor the conversation to what I believe they need to hear, and to get to a solution quicker. Where over video I can't do it. Over the phone you can get a little bit by hearing someone's voice, But if I'm in the room with someone, like that first 3 minutes I'm in the room with someone, my brain is completely analyzing their entire body language. Mm-hmm. Like that's just how I'm wired. I just go, I look at where their feet are pointed, how their hands are placed, what they have in front of them, where they're looking, how they're speaking, what the tone of their voice is, is their voice trembling, is there excitement? This is all the stuff that my brain is like reading, and so I have to be like, if I could be in a room with a client every single day, I would. If I could just talk to people all day and not have to do actual work, that'd be great.
For your meetings, it makes absolute sense to meet with clients.
Yeah, like I love it. Like that's what I thrive on. Like if I could literally do that and someone else could do all the paperwork and the drafting of contracts and reviewing, like I would spend 12 hours a day talking to people.
Yeah, I love it. I think in real estate too, I'm on my A game when I'm in front of the clients.
Yeah, and
I have that ability to see the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, it's maybe a generational thing for me, but texting is just I do it. I know it's efficient. I know it can be productive. I can, but I end up writing long texts, and I'm like, why am I writing a long text? Then I try voice clips, and then some customers don't like voice clips. I tried video clips of me talking to them for 3 minutes. Some like it, some don't. Everybody's got a preference.
We had an issue with a client over communication style. He didn't like how we were communicating with him.
Yeah.
And we were emailing, and he didn't want email. He literally just wants a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
X, Y, and Z were done. This is where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
And it was simple. He sat down.
Sounds like a guy I'd like.
Yeah.
I mean, it was simple as that for him just to outline, to say, this is all I want.
Yeah.
And it was a big communication breakdown.
Yeah.
And once we sat in front of each other, talked about it, worked it out, it was as simple as a quick 2-minute phone call.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a big generational problem, either now or maybe down the line? And there's no right or wrong. I'm just saying, I think you nailed it. I think millennials generally like a certain communication style.
Yeah.
Gen Xers, we've seen all this crap, and we kind of yearn for like some real communication, even if it's slower and efficient.
Yeah.
Sometimes we want that. I mean, how much of that is mucking up business, like the inability to read each other's communication style needs, right?
Yeah,
I see it in my field, and I'm just curious, do you see that as well too?
Good.
I think as a firm, we just need to talk to our clients more.
Mm-hmm.
And through that intake process, figure out, okay, how do you want to be communicated with?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I spoke with an elderly person today, and she wanted me to text another elderly person and say, just text her to get the information you want, which I wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel comfortable doing so. The information that I needed, I called her and left her a voicemail, and sure enough, texted her and she responded back. So didn't think that's the way that they would want it communicated with. So I guess it's just on the individual basis. Yeah. And everybody's so different, and everybody has a different lifestyle.
I know.
And what's
There's
easier.
A level of complexity to that.
So it's, I guess, our job through the intake process to say, hey, what's the best form of communication? And going forward, how would you like to be communicated with? What makes the most sense?
Yeah, I think that is an input. And again, I think everything in life truly boils down to communication. I think any business, whether it's the practice of law, it's real estate, it's accounting, it's how do individuals communicate? And I think if you can solve that puzzle and communicate effectively, you will be successful in any business. I think that is where the breakdown in society has happened. Communication, the art of communication, is lost because I believe people are very egocentric. They communicate with others the way they want to be communicated with, instead of understanding what the other person actually needs. Like, I am a visual learner, so I know that how I learn is by watching. If someone's trying to sell me something by talking to me a bunch of shit, I'm not going to buy it from you. If you call me and try and sell me something by just telling me a bunch of crap, you lost me. But if you show me something, okay, maybe you'll sell me. Give me the picture. Just show me the big picture.
Exercise bike desk.
Is that on an Instagram ad?
But that is the perfect analogy, right?
Extra cooling fan.
Also, that is coming. It didn't come yet. I mean, that was a great deal. It's like 90% off. Follow a guy on TikTok. This whole story is follow this guy on TikTok. Great Amazon deals. Okay, there's 90% off deals. It's like, a cooling fan and like a car vacuum. It was like $20 for each. I'm like, of course I'm going to fucking buy these. Like, why wouldn't I do it? So, perfect timing because they were all fucking with my air conditioner in my office like the past 2 days.
I wasn't even in.
Someone
I wasn't there.
With it. Well, someone was messing with it. It was like 70,000 degrees in my office. To the point where I ripped the thermostat off the wall to try and figure out what was wrong with it.
It was 70 degrees.
It was 73. It was 73.
71.2.
But when I stood next to it, it went up to like 75. That's how hot I was. Like, literally, that's how hot I was.
Of course.
To the point where I'm like, is something wrong? I literally took it off the wall.
Of course.
To see what was wrong with it. And I'm like,
What did you see?
a wire. You're right. You're right. Like, I took it off. I'm like, I don't know what I was going to do with it. I was going to fix something, and I don't even know what I was going to fix.
It just seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
That's exactly it. I'm like, something is off. Like, I turned it all the way down to like 60 degrees. And it was on 73. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong? I pull it off the wall. I'm like, there's got to be something amiss. And I'm like, what if I pull this cord out and plug it back in? Maybe I'll just like reset it. Like you unplug things and plug them back in. I'm like, nope. Didn't
like
work.
a router.
That's what I thought it was. But apparently the air conditioner in the building was off that day for some ungodly reasons. It was 1,000 degrees outside. And I was just sweating. So the cooling fan is going to be a great addition to my office. I can't wait.
For reference, Ari and I both had our heaters still on.
But you have your heater on. Your office is lit. If you walk into her office, like I'm hot now, right? Because it's warm in here. I walk into her office, I automatically start sweating.
Is it warm in here to you?
Average temperature.
I'm hot by nature, but like I can't even walk into her office. I'll have to stand outside because I'll instantly start sweating. I'm like, how do you keep it? And they'll shove like a blanket on. Like, how are you that hot?
Y'all sound like you got a carnival going on up there.
we definitely.
But the string of emails that resulted from your office,
it was pretty funny.
Definitely made my morning.
Yeah, Matt liked to throw some lies out there about what actually happened, and he sends out a staff email to everybody. I'm like, that was not the accurate facts. So we have fun in the office, but back to the point, like visually, yes. Visually, I bought an exercise bike because I saw it on TikTok. If someone would have told me, like, hey, there's this cool desk bike, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I see it on TikTok, I'm like, add that to the cart.
Yeah, but if you ever used that in the office, you'd be drenched in sweat. So
thank you. That's why I don't use it. I'm saving you guys from seeing me pour sweat. That's why. I have used it a few times, though.
On Saturdays.
Yeah. Like, I'll sit there on
I would
Saturdays.
pay money to see you.
I'm going to send you a video next time I do it. I'm
tell
in there
him to
this
do
week.
TikTok video of him on
Can
it.
you imagine just coming into work
like knocking on his door and he's in there
with his suit on,
bike.
just biking?
Why don't wear a suit there on Saturday?
Well, like, just
on a normal work day.
Yeah, just on
like
a
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, like just coming in. I need help with this, but
I'm like, all right, just grab a seat, pull up a chair next to the desk, just put your stuff up here. But
like biking, on a Peloton.
It was a great idea. It is a great idea. I also want to get a treadmill for underneath my desk. They have these like walking.
That's at least functional though, because
those are like those old man like bike treadmills.
But no, I feel like that would be a cool thing.
They don't go. They're
not supposed to go fast.
I know they don't look. They're well made though. Have you seen them?
I mean, I feel like it would work.
Your ankles are going to be sweaty.
Oh, listen, the air conditioner is great. This is what our law office is like.
That's why we're doing this.
I mean, this is truly a glimpse of what we are. Like, we're not like we are a band of misfits. I say we're really smart people, really good lawyers, but we're just human beings. Like, we joke around, we have fun,
and again,
it's a shit show some days.
As you and I hit this before, is demystify the law, and take the pompous nature of the law, which I'm not saying it actually exists, but there's a perception in the public, with certain portions of the public, that there's a pompousness to it.
Yeah.
And the more you can peel that onion, take it out.
Yeah.
The better connection you'll have with the public, I think.
Yeah. I think we have an interesting group of people. I mean, we really do. If you look at all of us, like,
it's an unconventional way of practicing.
Yeah.
Not just what you do, but the way you market yourself.
Yeah.
And, did you get the billboard that said we're on a billboard?
Yeah, we're on a sign. We're kind of a big deal.
You did get that.
We did that. Yes, we did that.
I missed that.
Yeah, we may do another one. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay.
I got a meeting next week with the billboard company. They're really cheap now. Apparently, billboards are like super cheap. This guy gave me
Matt Durzig gave you a great idea about a year and a half ago. Do you remember what that was?
I don't.
Matt, if you're listening, you got to email me and let me know what that was. A good one.
I can't remember. I thought I wrote that down too.
I'm a lawyer. we know stuff or something.
I'm a lawyer. I know words. That's what it was.
We're lawyers. We know words.
Exactly. That would actually be a funny billboard too. I feel like, but that's the thing. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
That's what I mean.
And you can't. I feel like our profession has such a stigma on. Like, I hate most lawyers because they're assholes. Like, truly, I think lawyers we come out of law school. I don't know if you experienced the same thing when you were in law school. It's like you come out thinking it's going to be this like adversarial, like, and you kind of have this hard shell on you. Like, you're supposed to be wired this certain way. And I was just like, why? Like, we don't need to be that way. Just be different. And it's just, but then you deal with so many lawyers. It's like you're being an asshole just to be an asshole. Like, there's no reason to be and you probably deal with it the most in litigation. Like, people just act like shitheads because that's just what they want to do.
I got 3 emails this morning while I was getting ready from other attorneys, and I was like, I'm not coming to fucking work today.
Poor Ben.
You know when Ben's getting those emails, he's just having, you just hear him, and he's just like, I'm done. It's just, because you do, like, you have lawyers that just, like, I'll get emails from lawyers, and again, I don't deal with the litigious stuff that he does, but we'll have, like, contentiousness on deals, and I'm like, that was such a dickbag email. Like, just pick up the fucking phone and call me, and we can sort this out in 5 minutes, but I know you wanted to bill your client a half hour to write this 3-page email that I didn't even read, and just called you back and said, let's just talk about this. Like, literally, and that's why people don't like lawyers, because they do shit like that. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to do it differently and actually care about your clients, like actually care about the people we work with. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, if we just do that, I feel like we'll be okay.
Way ahead of the game.
Yeah, I feel like we'll be okay.
Way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So, since we have 2 newbies here tonight,
yeah, I like newbies.
We're gonna put the lawyer stuff on the side, and we're gonna like open it up a little bit here.
Love it.
Yeah. So Mia's giving me that look. I'm like, are you? I actually usually when she stares at me, I'm the one that gets horrified.
Yeah.
I'm like kind of reversing it around a little bit right now. Rocco and I spent a lot of time in this room and the prior location for years talking about the things in the world that just don't make any sense. But I want to ask both of you in conversational style, can you make any sense of why we're so caustic today? Why it seems impossible for anyone to find humility to admit when they're wrong and it possibly change their opinion when they know that they need to. Or maybe you do see it. I don't know. We're pretty convinced that people will die on that hill for their beliefs, even when they've been shown that their beliefs are, are not factually correct. And we're just so caustic. Do you sit and, am I wrong? Or do you sit and think about this? Do you have any ideas?
Self-preservation, maybe?
It's a great answer.
One. Yeah, elaborate on that. I'm
curious. Please. That's a new one.
Yeah.
See, this was a good idea.
I like
that. Because, you stand up for what you believe and, you're so gung-ho on it. And to admit you're wrong, that means to admit you're wrong is you're going against everything that you said. Okay, to admit you're wrong, you're going against everything that you stood up for and like...
You profess to believe to be true, right?
Correct. Yeah. Everything that you profess to be true, and you don't want to be looked upon... like frowned upon, you don't want to be talked about, you don't want
so that might be the big one.
You want to save your face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I'm going on. You want to save your face.
So
you don't want to be wrong about it.
And that you're saying, and that seems to trump any no pun intended there. Mm-hmm. It seems to prohibit any humility.
Correct.
Looking at me. Two things that I could probably think of. First one being that with everybody getting everything they've ever wanted nowadays, it's very hard to tell somebody that they're wrong or that they shouldn't get what they want or that their point of view is not the point of view that everyone else shares. They're so used to being told, good job, this is, you're right. So I think that plays a good piece in it. And I think a lot of people just aren't good people, and they don't have the ability to just empathize with others and to maybe have their point of view changed. So
I agree. I personally agree with both of you. I know he does.
Absolutely.
But that last statement, I'm going to take exception because I think most people are good.
Yeah.
I think most people are good. I
Yeah,
think they have a
maybe.
propensity of being assholes at times. But I mean, but if you believe most people are assholes,
maybe not most people are
this
assholes.
could be a great conversation because I mean,
Yeah.
I see the validity of that too.
No, and I think that's maybe an overstatement. Maybe you're right. Most people are good people, but I think that
They can be.
they have a hard time empathizing with others. Maybe that doesn't make you a bad person, but
No, but I think to your point, I think you're. I agree with that point. I think people we live in a very egocentric world. Like, we're looking at things from our lens all the time, and I think we have a very hard time looking at it from another person's perspective.
I think it's always been the human nature.
I don't know, because I feel like I don't know. I feel like today, because there's so much, we live in a me society. Like, it's about me. Like, I've been told I'm off. Like, to your point, like, I've been told I was awesome. I got trophies for fucking coming in last place. I'm great. Like, no, you're not. Like, you're not. Like, sorry, the world does not work that way. But people are wired that way now, and I think it's and I like the word self-preservation because I think it is. It's this self-preservation because I think if they go back on what they believe in, then it calls into question everything they believe in. So the self-preservation is they don't want to become unhinged. I feel like it boils down to, if they start looking at, I was wrong. Well, what else was I wrong about? Are people going to question everything now that I've admitted I was wrong? I think people want to die on hills they don't want to be perceived as wrong or a flip-flopper or not as intelligent as they think people think.
So that perception of them weighs well more
absolutely
than the reality of their I don't know, their being, right? The reality of their truth. Yes. I think people are very concerned about what others think. I know I used to be. I feel like once I hit 40, I stopped giving a fuck. Like, probably my late 30s, but like 40 is really when I got to 40, I was like, I don't really give a shit what anybody outside of my close circle thinks. You get to be as old as me. You don't care about nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you're like way older than all of us.
I'm not 60 yet, though.
Close. But I feel like that's because we all go through that. Like, I remember in my 20s, you always cared about what people thought. I was looking at it like, I don't want to look bad, right? Your 30s, you start coming into your own. You start figuring shit out. But I feel like late 30s, early 40s, I just got to the point where I'm just like, don't give a fuck. I wish I would have figured that out earlier.
So, let me ask you, Mr. Millennial.
I hate that you're a millennial.
me too.
When you said in 2005 you were 10, I wanted to throw up. I'm like, I had been practicing law for 2 years. I'm like, oh, there's baby Ben, man. Oh.
I think I turned 40 in 2010. No, that's not true. That's not true. What I want to say to you, though, is we have trouble finding humility to admit our mistakes, right? Do you feel that social media, especially with your generation of swath of the public, has put everybody, I mean, think broad picture now, right? Don't drill down on the words, but think about the essence of what I'm about to say. Has put everybody in competition with everybody. So we are maneuvering on a planet where this media theoretically has created competition. I mean, it's a weird kind of competition, and maybe many kinds, but there's a essence of competition between every human. different ages, different demographics, different genders, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's almost like your societal worth is artificially put on display, and you are now competing against theoretical billions of eyeballs.
Yeah, I'll preface it by saying this. So I have social media, but like I don't post anything on it, so I don't know really what goes into people's heads who do post a lot of things on it. But I'll say this: I think that it goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, in that people's identity is out there for everyone to see when they portray themselves on social media. So to then have their point of view questioned, they're not going to change it as readily, because then they look like an asshole on social media. They're posting this, their mind's changed, and then they look like an idiot because they changed their minds. So I think that with everybody being able to see what you portray yourself as, makes it a lot more difficult, if you're not conscious of it, to maybe take a different point of view, or to have your point of view challenged. And speaking on the competition thing, I think absolutely. I mean, everybody is competing for not only space on social media, but also to have the right point of view, or to have the most followers, or whatever it is, with everyone else. So,
and I think the let's go pre-internet, the before times, before 95, right? There we weren't competing with our friends, and there wasn't any of this like constant competition for eyeballs. It just was not there. There were sectors that did it with advertising and so forth, but you weren't really competing with everybody all the time. You would hear me out.
Okay.
You would. Now, I'm not talking in business. I'm talking about just daily lives.
Yeah.
Before the web, how many people would you actually physically either see or talk to on a daily basis? That theoretically, who you might be competing with the new dress you're wearing, or the new watch, or the new car, maybe. Now, even though it's ridiculous, because you could literally run around naked on tomorrow, and it'd be funny, and people would laugh, and it would go viral for 10 seconds, and that video, unfortunately, would be there forever, but no one's going to give a shit an hour and a half later. That lesson we haven't been able to teach our young yet, but that's the reality of it. The point is, we only saw a handful of people every day. A year goes by. How many people did I really see in 1990? On the month of June in 1990, how many people did I interact with and actually see? How big was my sphere? Was I competing with those people? I don't know. Maybe I was. But it's such a different world now, because the virtual has overtaken the physical reality. That's where I'm headed with it.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think we competed back then. It's just on a smaller scale, because we didn't have access to eyeballs. There were popular kids and non-popular kids. There were cliques in schools. That's competition. Mm-hmm. That's the same shit that's happening on social media now. It's just those were the eyeballs we had. We had the attention of the people we were in school with. You know, had we had social media back then, this same shit would have happened back then.
You don't think it's exasperated though?
I think
exacerbated, I should say.
I think it's exacerbated because the platforms allow it to be.
Does it bring competition where competition doesn't need to be?
I think competition is going to be there regardless. I think social media just allows a bigger platform, a bigger stage.
I couldn't imagine growing up being a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming, I don't know, that girls have it much worse than teenage boys. I don't know. I just know, like, the experience from my guy friends. If they got in a fight, they were friends 2 minutes later. Yeah. I mean, girls are nasty.
Yes.
Whether you're 12 or whether you're 45. Yeah. Girls are nasty.
Why is that?
Yeah, why is that?
I'm going to say lots of insecurity, lots of jealousy.
Okay.
Because if everybody was secure, there would be no reason to be nasty. There would be no reason to talk about other people. That's you would just lift each other up and be truly good women to each other. But with that being said, I could not imagine growing up with social media or Snapchat or the way that these girls could bully each other now.
Yeah.
I don't know how old I know how, do the math. 35 years ago or whatever, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
25 years ago. I'm scared for my girls. I mean, they don't have social media, but even like, or feeling left out and being able to bully each other, being on social media and Snapchat, tell me who your best friend is. Tell me what you think about so-and-so. And I'm just waiting for my girls to see that and be like devastated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know exactly what you're referring to.
So the popularity contest, even though we had cliques in high school and there were the popular kids and there was like the goth kids and there was the athletic kids and all of that, it's nowhere near what it's exacerbated on social media. So you could post a picture and put a filter, or not a filter, or, you know, some text over it of one girl in high school and write something nasty, and everybody could share that picture of that girl. You know?
Yeah, it's more immediate for sure, more widespread for sure.
More immediate, more, before we would have to write a note and like pass it through the lunchroom.
No, we would. You're right.
So,
you're right.
Do you know what I mean?
We didn't have cameras either.
And then, I mean, now it could be spread through 3 school districts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within a matter of seconds.
That's exactly right.
And that is a scary part, right? But I feel like that onus falls on us, right? As the parent.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we have to, like, and that's where I think we
but not all parents are going to do their jobs.
Correct. That's the problem. But I look at, like, my obligation is to my kids, right? To teach my kids to be kind, no matter what. And there's going to be bad people in the world. There's going to be bullies, but that doesn't mean you bully back. That doesn't mean you fight fire with fire. You take the higher road. You treat everybody with kindness because you don't know what's going on in their life. The people that are bullying have some insecurity they're fighting against. And I think social media now has just allowed this it's come to the surface so much and in such a widespread way. Like you said, it goes so quickly. It happened when we were younger. Like, I remember, like, people were assholes, like, growing up. Like, there were groups of kids that were just pure assholes. Like, that's just how they were because they thought they were better, but they also had a lot of insecurities. I look at those same people now that as we become adults, they still do the same shit and have the same insecurities because they never dealt with it. And I think because we have these platforms now, yes, it makes it a lot easier to do that and to be competitive with one another and to be an asshole. But I think it also is a tool that people could use to spread a lot of positivity. And I feel like we need to get the people in the world or our kids to start looking at it that way. And that's all I can hope for. Yeah. I just hope the world becomes better for my kids.
We were talking about humility before, Ben. Do you think maybe it's a matter of just so much insecurity in the world in general, and that might be the reason why you can't find humility? I mean, to me, that's because the insecurity seems to work directly against the idea of humility. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, this is what everybody's saying, but, you know, with just the amount of the mass of people that you're just, I mean, everybody's probably more insecure than they could have been before because of the amount of people that's seeing everything that they're posting.
But are they really? Like, I mean,
you see
theoretically, you're right, numbers. But I always wonder, like, you know, we have such a self-importance. Right. We think, oh my God, I can't do it. It's like same thing. You know, my dad told me when I was 9. You know, I was gonna, you know, something happened to school and it was embarrassing, and kids laughed at me. And he says, "Yeah, they did, and tomorrow they're gonna forget about it." You have to really experience that as a kid to kind of get it, right? Is it kind of the same thing now? I mean, yeah, unfortunately, the video will be there forever, and it can't haunt you. I get it, but we have such a self-importance that we think that, oh my God, they're gonna make fun of me forever, millions of people, and it's like, yeah.
I think we all saw the infamous porta potty fight.
That was the best.
Yes,
that was literally the best thing ever. Yeah. That was awesome. I've watched it 100 times.
Romper Stomper.
I mean, that is literally...
Yeah.
That's Laura's Halloween costume, the Romper Stomper.
Are you serious?
100% that's what she's going to go as. I mean, if she's listened to it, get that costume. We have a Halloween party to go to, so I feel like you can get that.
It was great.
I mean, but that was great. But yes, like that. But that girl will live on for a long time.
I don't know. I think next week no one's going to remember
it. No one's going to forget it, though.
That's exactly right. No one's going to forget it. Point. That's exactly right.
So, like, you know, like...
It was amazing.
Are we going to talk about it next week? I don't know if we're going to continue to talk about it, but no one's going to, like, walk into the Porta-John and be like, oh, shit, am I going to get my ass beat? Or somebody getting their ass beat next door.
That's the last thing I think about when I have to use one of them stinky things. I dread it anyways, but when I have to go in there The last thing I think about someone's going to start whipping on me and like throw me in there. Like,
now I'm going to be like, you know,
I just think
being aware of being aware of my surroundings.
Just don't cut people in line. The best part, I think I said this Tuesday, the best part of that entire video, and then the interview she did with Dave Portnoy was like, what happened was over. Like, we all just kind of went about our ways. Like, no one got kicked out. No, if those were dudes fighting. Like, I'm sorry, this is going to sound...
Was that inside the stadium, though?
It was inside the stadium.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Like, if those were guys, like, tell me, we would have got arrested, got thrown out. Like, these girls just beat the shit.
It was a savage fight.
It was like, she literally punched two chicks, threw one into the porta potty, and slammed the door on her. And then they just went about their day.
I mean, yeah, she was kicking them. I mean, that head was so close to the whole...
It was literally... Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this literally
That should have been illegal in and of itself. I mean, you should have been arrested for that.
No, nothing happened. But again, like, that's social media. And I think that's the, you know, there was someone there recording that. Like, so people are very aware of what's going on. So I think, you know, when it comes down to humility, I think situations like that are why people have a hard time, because they know you're constantly being watched. You don't know who's around. And I think it causes people to, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I think humility is hard for people. I think it is, because I think there is this sense of importance we have. And I think that's something no one really gives a shit. Like, we're talking about this now, but you're right. Like, in a week from now, like, I'm never going to forget it. Like, that's never going to be burned out of my mind. Because it was awesome. Like, it was awesome. Like, it was awesome. Like, because she was defending her mother. Like,
but she's the one that caused the whole thing.
Admittedly so. Okay, I get that. But however, if you cut somebody in a porta potty line, that does not give two people the right to jump the person's mother.
True.
I don't know. If I was at Tequila Cowboy that one time, somebody would have cut me in line.
Well, also true. But would you have jumped? Would you have beat their mother up?
Who knows?
Now he would have beat the dad up.
Who knows?
Would you have beat
Not the mother. Yeah, maybe the dad.
Yeah, but I just think that was a highlight of my week, seeing that video. It was because it was what not at the fight. It was such a real situation.
So wow.
That was humanity.
Wow,
that was humanity right there. It was because if you look at it, that was purely humanity. It was the girl did something that happens all the time. People cut lines all the time, right? And then these girls lost their shit and started beating up her mother, who was just standing outside the door to protect the daughter. And the daughter's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna beat the shit out of these women. They're beating up my mom." That is humanity at its finest. From the dawn of time till now, it's literally a depiction of humanity.
I think you're absolutely right. And then another part of me says, you know what that is? That's just drunken Pittsburghers at a country show.
Yeah.
Also true. Which is also humanity at its finest. Or not its finest.
I am the least remarkable human you'll ever want to meet. And I am Joe Ordinary. So I'm telling you that up front. I'm aware of that. But I don't find it hard, the idea hard, of recognizing when I'm wrong or have been shown that I'm wrong or even having a change of opinion and then sticking to a new opinion or change. I find absolutely nothing hard about that at all. So I refuse to believe that if I can fucking do it, why can't most of society do it on a regular basis? I change my mind every day. I've had my core beliefs change from right to left, left to right, up to down all the time.
But let me ask you
all
this question.
The time.
Did you always do that? So I feel like that. Let me ask you this question. Like, you're younger, right? Are you inclined now to change your mind easily? If you have a belief, are you inclined now to change your mind, or does it take a lot to get you to change your mind?
I mean, I guess it depends on the thing.
Okay.
If it's maybe a core belief, maybe that might take longer. If it's just like who am I going to vote for? That's something that can be changed pretty easily depending on what, information I'm presented with. But yeah, I mean, I certainly expect that it would be harder for somebody that's younger, maybe a little bullheaded and not as
And I don't even think
been through as much to understand that things can change and that you can adopt a new belief and still be the same person. I mean, I think that people so identify with the things they believe in.
Bingo.
and they make them a part of themselves, whereas it's
not my identity.
Right.
It's just part of my belief structure.
Right.
We need to separate those two. Right now, we're wearing our beliefs, all of them, as a badge of fucking honor. Well, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. Look at me.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not real sophisticated.
Well, and to your point, like I agree, and I think a lot of it, and at least I look at myself, right, over time as I've gotten older. I think as I've realized there are less absolute truths in the world, is when I started to
especially since 2020
be able to. But that's really when I started to be able to understand that my beliefs can change. Right, when I was younger, like I was more bullheaded. I believed that the world was this way. And if you don't agree with me, then you're a fucking idiot.
Was it round or flat?
Well, listen, man. I feel like it might be flat now. I saw the ice wall.
Who knows?
Listen, man.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of things.
I gotta unwind him on that one.
There's a lot of things I'm questioning now. There's a lot of.
How can you not?
There's a lot of things I'm questioning, but that's my thing. Like I think as I've gotten older, and maybe not been through more, but just seen the world from a different perspective.
Been through more.
But I think that's that's an arbitrary definition. I think it's more of just the experience of life, just going through life. And I think understanding there are less truths in the world than I thought there were 20 years ago. So that makes me more inclined to listen to someone and try and I always try to understand what is their perspective. Where are they coming from? And why are they saying that? And why do they believe that? And then can they convince me? And I never look at an argument as I'm never trying to convince you of my beliefs. If you can see my position and understand where I'm coming from, that's all I need. And I think, but that came with time. Like when I was younger, like I had to win that argument. I had to convince you.
So what phase are you in now?
I think Ben's a lot wiser than I was at that age.
Man.
I mean, I think you're way wiser than I was at that age.
I don't know what phase I'm in. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm at the point where, and I don't know. I don't know that I was ever really that different from where I am now. There's things you believe in, but if you can find something that, if you do the right thing, right, and like some beliefs may align with that at some point, some other beliefs may at a different point. So I don't know. I mean, I just think things change. So.
Do you believe in the definition of right changing?
It depends on the circumstance.
Okay.
That's a broad question.
Well, it's moral relativism. It's.
Ask me that question.
Do you believe the definition of right changes?
As in, like
what is right and wrong? Or do you believe that's an absolute?
Well,
it's getting deep in here.
Depends.
That's why we do this.
Yeah. Okay.
I do believe there are things that are very right and very wrong.
Okay.
So yes, I guess.
Okay.
Yes, I do believe in right changes.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think because again, I think that's where people get caught up. We think that right and wrong is black and white, and I don't think that's the case. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very gray. Morality is gray. I believe that, and I think when I was younger, like I was very much like this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is evil, this is up, this is down.
Oh, I'm very much like that. There's the difference between right and wrong.
But you don't believe that changes under the circumstances?
No, it doesn't change under the circumstance.
Okay, interesting. Okay, is murder wrong?
Huh.
Is there such thing as justifiable murder?
Yeah.
Okay, so
if somebody raped my daughter, you better watch out. I'm coming for you.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like that's my whole point. Is like, I think we as people get so caught up on right and wrong being black and white until we actually ask ourselves the question:
Amen.
Is it?
Okay, so I see where you're coming from.
You know what I mean? Like, because I used to think the same way. Then I had to wait a minute. Like, it's not so black and white because there are things that I know I could do if I had to, which I believe are wrong when I look at it from an outsider's perspective. But if you put me in a situation where I have to do that over something else, and I know I could do it, is it wrong?
Well, we're living, from my observation, it seems like we're living more and more in a world of absolutes. It's like, especially if you dive into the political side, you're this guy or this guy, right? And you're either on this side and you believe all these absolutes. And on this side, you believe all these absolutes. Now, meanwhile, the average person, really, if you sat them down for coffee, they're probably somewhere in that middle because they're taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's the humility I mean on the political side is can't we find the humility to say that, hey, I believe a little of this and a little of this, and then I'm going to have to figure out who to vote for, but I'm not really in love with either one of these two parties, right? Mm-hmm. That's the real that I think most people feel, but they won't articulate it because they're either intimidated. They're interested because the whole world runs on politics the past 15 years. But we just won't find... It's almost like you have to associate with a certain team or be on that team or you're left out. I don't get it. It does not... I mean, that's why maybe I'm just an oddball. I just can't play the team game, man.
Well, I just think that the people in the middle were just quiet. We just don't... Because again, the 10% fringe on both sides are fucking out of their mind. Mm-hmm. Like out of their mind, loud, kicking, screaming.
So that leaves 80% waiting somewhere in the middle.
Right, but again, I used to be a lot more into politics and political. Now I'm just going about my fucking business, and I'll navigate whatever happens. Mm-hmm. And I've just kind of got to the point there's no point in getting pissed about shit or letting it. Like during the pandemic, I was losing my fucking mind. I mean, this shit doesn't make sense, and I couldn't. And I'm like,
you couldn't wrap your head around it.
That's right.
And you weren't in control over anything that was happening.
Correct.
Like it wasn't making sense that you were able to go to dinner, but you had to wear a mask until you got to your table, and you couldn't order a drink at the bar. But
unless you got a hot dog.
Unless you got a hot dog, but you know what?
That was the stupidest thing.
But you could take You could take a 6-pack to go and wait for a table in your car and drink, or you could take margaritas and drink them on your way home.
Yes.
But you couldn't sit at the bar and drink.
Yes.
I mean, none of it fucking made sense.
No, at all.
So at that point, you were just so fucking frustrated and you were just so disappointed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
You had to homeschool your kids and they had to be masked to go to school. I mean, to go back to school. None of it was so fucking aggravating.
We had arrows in the grocery store aisles.
And undoubtedly, I went up the wrong arrow.
I did it
every
all
time.
the time on purpose just because I wanted to see people's reactions.
And you got dirty looks and you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't know which way to go.
Yeah, it was the most ridiculous. Like, when we look back on that era, it's like...
We listened.
We did. Because again, like, I think...
Conformity.
Conformity is one, but I also think human beings are good by nature. So I think, like, I know myself, like, I believe in rules are bendable and pliable. But there are certain things, like, I believe if something is put in place that I'm told is for the benefit of others, and there's nothing that's telling me otherwise, I'll follow that until I got to a point where I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
But we could go to Ohio or West Virginia and we could eat without a mask.
Well, COVID wasn't over there.
I remember when that happened, I was like, this is fucking freedom. I drove as fast as I could to West Virginia. I did. Like, I literally, middle of the day, I'm like, I'm going to West Virginia to eat fucking nachos and margaritas.
So you weren't allowed to eat inside a restaurant in the beginning. So they created little bubbles on picnic tables outside the restaurant.
I forgot all about that.
Because that was safe.
Yeah, it's like you can't eat inside unless inside is outside. It was like, this was the stupidest. It was the stupidest.
And these are supposedly educated people that we have elected with our vote to make these rules.
I don't think anybody knew what the fuck was going on. And again, coming back, bringing this full circle to humility, I would have respected politicians so much more if they had the humility at that point in time to say, hey guys, we don't have a fucking clue what we're doing. Just bear with us. Like, we're trying things. If you guys listen and follow this, we hope it'll work. We don't know for sure, but bear with us. Like, this is all new. I'd have been like, I get it. Okay,
if some politician would have done that, just one of prominence, they would have been a rock star. They could have gone right to the presidency. The next day. They would have the humility to say, we're learning as we go here. We're sort of figuring out, we think this might give us the best opportunity, but understand we reserve the right to change our mind.
Yes.
Just tell me the fucking truth.
That's all I want to
do. I mean, you're never going to tell me the whole truth. Just at least on this one issue that's shutting down society, let's tell me the truth.
Yeah, it made
how difficult really is that? Oh, well, I might get voted out next time and I won't have my lifetime pension. I get it. There's always a component.
But it comes back to what me said earlier. It's self-preservation. They wouldn't change their position for self-preservation.
For fear they're looking like stupid, right?
No, for fear they're going to get voted out. Like, that's what politicians do. When you think about it, politicians create discourse within society to preserve power. Because if we all talk to each other, we all kind of get along. Democrats, Republicans, we all kind of see the world the same. We have some slight differences. But if we all got in a room and talked, we'd be like, what the fuck do we need these people for? So they're like, they call, this is racist, this is this, this is this. They cause these problems and cause this discourse. Say, we're the saviors. You've got to keep us in power. We will fix the problems. But they don't fix shit. They just create more.
So what's your stance on people that, for all those reasons you just said, don't vote because they simply say, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to maneuver no matter what these idiots do.
They're lazy.
And I can't have any change there. I mean, both sides are corrupt. We have a guy that's senile and is president now, and the guy running that probably doesn't run against him is a whatever he is. Besides being indicted, he's an egomaniac. So our choices aren't great. So that person says, well, why should I even pay attention and bother? Let me just go out there and make the best of whatever I'm presented and just go forward. Can you really scorn that person?
No, unless they complain. Because I have a friend of mine who never votes, but also he never complains about anything because he doesn't really. He's just like, I just meander through life. Okay, no problem. It's the people that complain about shit, but then don't take action to change it. They're like, well, my vote's not going to matter. Well, if 100,000 people feel the same way, then it does matter. Like, and that's the thing. So my thing is, if you're not going to vote, that's your right as an American. Then don't complain about the system. Don't complain about what's broken because you have the opportunity as a citizen of this country to make a change and you chose not to because you didn't want to get fucking cold on a November morning and wait in line.
What if both choices are absolute shit?
One's still undoubtedly better than the other.
Yeah, there's always going to be a better piece
Which
of
one's
shit.
less shitty? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, when you think about it, when you look at the Trump versus Clinton, a lot of people voted the lesser of two evils. When you think about it, if you talk to a lot of people that voted in that election, they didn't like either candidate. They were voting for the lesser of two evils. The last election was the not Trump vote. Like, they knew Biden was not a good president. He was just not as bad as what they believed Trump to be. So I can't remember any time you've had like a candidate like this candidate's fucking amazing. They've all been shitty because they're politicians. It's just who's the less shitty candidates. The nicer piece of shit. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean,
is that lawyer speak?
I don't know. It's definitely not lawyer speak. I just see it that way. It's
the one who can at least complete a full sentence.
Well, yeah. I mean,
to start
where we
helps.
I mean, where we are now, it's just like I almost feel like we're living in a dream world. Like,
yeah.
How
are you're not the only one?
Like, it's Idiocracy the movie. Like, that's what it is right now. It's. I mean. And again, like, you hate to say that because you want any president of this country to be successful because it's the country that we live in. However, like, I look at this dude, I'm like...
It's weekend at Bernie's for me.
Does no one see that he doesn't
Emperor has no clothes? I don't know.
He is. Like, there's got to be someone better. There's got to be someone better. And I pray for our country there is. If not, I'm moving to fucking Brazil.
Where are you going to move to Neville Island?
No, dude, I'm going to go buy
Neville Island is its own country.
I'm just going to fucking...
But still, I mean, we still live in the greatest country.
We do, absolutely. 100%.
Because we're sitting here doing this tonight, and there's places you can't do this.
Well, and I hate when people's like, well, I'm just going to leave. Go ahead. Like, go ahead. Like, I didn't see you leave. Like, all these celebrities said they were going to leave when Trump won. They're all still fucking here. I've been around the world. There's no place I'd rather live than here. I've seen poverty. I've seen India. I've seen Eastern Europe. I've seen these places where it's like, I don't want to live any of those places. Like, we do live in the greatest country on this planet. And people just need to get on board. And yeah, we're flawed as a nation. We're flawed as a society. But we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be close to perfect. We need to accept that we're humans. We're flawed. And just get the fuck along.
Question for you two. Is it just too easy to survive today? All right, before you answer, let me give you some background. He can probably remember, maybe. Mm-hmm. Early 90s, there was a recession, 91. And it's bad. I mean, especially in Western Pennsylvania, there were no jobs. I mean, I was a kid that didn't have a degree, and I was trying to find a job. Believe me, it was tough. Yeah. You had people with master's degrees working at Applebee's. The service was great. But my point was, right? So if you didn't work, especially if you were a single person, you didn't stand a fucking chance. You had to find meaningful employment pretty much to survive. You weren't going to make it. Not entirely sure that still is the way it is today. I think there's enough support systems in place, both governmental and other things. Is it too easy today to just survive?
I don't know the answer to that because I don't want to just survive. I'm sure if I packed up shop and said fuck it.
Don't do that, please.
Well, no, just in general.
The general can't quit.
The general, quit then. I'm sure, but I'm sure you as well. You don't want to just survive. You want things in life. I
assumed all that, but I'm saying.
So I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know that my husband and I, we bust our ass. You and Elena bust your ass.
Everybody's always bitching about how high rent is, but you never see anybody not having a place to live that's bitching about it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's homeless people, right? But
unhoused.
But unhoused people.
Unhoused, with iPhones.
But yeah, I mean, I would agree with. I think it's relatively easy for people to just kind of skate by. I don't know what the reason is. I
couldn't imagine purchasing a house right now. Interest rates are extremely high.
It's still good out there.
Oh, sorry. They're great.
Buy a house right now.
But yes, call Eric.
But I think,
thanks, Mia.
Sorry.
No, but I think,
don't edit that out.
No editing here.
But I think to the point of survival, I think there are people who have gotten lazy. I think people are lazy. People are entitled, and I think there are systems set up that made it very easy to just be entitled and to just sit around and think about just how easy it is to make money these days. I mean, if you got pretty feet, you got a fucking business.
That's a great point.
I mean, but it's the truth. But this is why, this is what people don't understand. And when we're talking about being easy to survive, I think, that's part of it. I think people also got very creative during the pandemic. They realized that, all kidding aside, there are people out there that will pay to see someone's feet. And people are like, well, I like my feet. Let's see who else likes them, and they're making tens of thousands of dollars.
Some of that happened,
but I think to your point, there are probably systems in place that allow people to survive easily. But I think it's just because people have become lazy, and I think people that want to be successful and strive for more are the minority. I don't think that's how most people are wired. I think I'm looking at the people I grew up with and how my circle of friends has changed over the years. And if I look back 20 years ago, the friends I had 20 years ago, and say I took 20 of them, there's 2 of them that are wired like me. And the other 18 were just cool, just getting along. And getting to a point I'm good, I don't need anything else. It's I don't want to fucking live like that. You get one shot. I want to conquer the world and do as much as I can, see as much as I can, and be as much as I can. So I think a lot of people have just gotten very comfortable with just existing.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but it appears that way.
That's how I see it. I don't see. I mean, I don't see a lot of people. I even look at people on social media, right? But if you look at Facebook, right? Facebook's really kind of the true image of just your friend circles.
Is it?
Well, when I say true, meaning you'll see who's really trying to be successful and who cares about that, or who's just okay being and existing. The people that complain on there, the people that just, and if that's the life they choose, that's fine, but then don't complain about your situation. My biggest thing with people that, and I've had friends like this, it's they wouldn't strive for more, but complain they didn't have something or make comments about what I had. And I'm do the fucking work. It's pretty simple. Just do the fucking work.
I think that right now is probably, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the best time to be alive if you put in any sort of effort.
Absolutely.
Because
100%.
you're just automatically going to do better than 80% of people because nobody tries to do anything.
That is the most accurate statement. Like, if you just put in a little bit, because you're right, like, people have gotten fucking, even in art, look at our profession. Like, there are a lot of lawyers out there that are just good, just existing. And I look at it like that's just opportunity. Like, if you put in a little bit more work than everybody else, it's very easy to be exponentially successful. And like, that's so spot on. It's true. Like, this is the best time because there are a lot of lazy people out there. They're slow moving and don't see opportunity.
Is it the pandemic caused some of that? They haven't recovered from it?
I think it's a big
as a
part
society? Or technology, maybe?
I think the growth of technology, especially in our industry, a lot of the older generation probably hasn't caught on. Where we're, I feel like, adapting to a lot of the new technology faster.
Yep, I agree. I think the pandemic caused a lot of it. I think like what we felt I know my generation felt the generation coming up because you're all winners. No, that's not how the world works. Like that's not how the world works at all. And I think people, that were brought up that way and they're starting to come out into the world, they're expecting the world to just hand them shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, like, no, it's just, I think there's all kinds of reasons, but it was the perfect storm. It's the everybody wins generation coupled with the pandemic, coupled with the rise of technology. I think people have just gotten very lazy.
So I read an article about a month ago that was down the same path, and they were articulating on there that because our media delivery to everybody has become very cheap, meaning like whether it's movies and screens on our hands, big screen TVs for $200, the cost of entertaining ourselves in the past decade or so has plummeted. Now, you can argue ticket prices, though, once-in-a-lifetime concerts are expensive, but the general day-in, day-out activity of entertaining ourselves has become very, very cheap. It's become enough for a lot of the population that they don't need to exert themselves much more if they have the basic things and to entertain themselves. Whereas it cost a little more in decades prior to enjoy entertainment. It was actually like a thing you look forward to. Now we're inundated with this constant mind-numbing entertainment all the time, and we don't need to do much more if we have what already is making us happy. We're getting the things like you mentioned earlier. We have everything. We're getting all the things that we want within reason, but we had that constant quote-unquote entertainment, and it's dirt cheap in today's world. Thus, it doesn't incentivize some folks to go obtain more. Do you find it creates any of that?
I completely agree with that. I think that is a huge problem. I never looked at it that way, but just as you're saying, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Because think about this may sound crass, but why do people? I'll take men, right? Why do men work? To make money for what? To buy cool shit, to pick up girls. Like, that's literally how men are wired.
Well, you can make the argument that it all goes with men. It all goes back to sex as the motive.
Correct. That's what I was getting. Is that
Nietzsche, or is that Jung, or who is that?
It's all. But that's really what it boils. If you look at the psychology of it, like that's how men are wired. So we work to make money, to acquire things, to become powerful, to get women. Right. So now it's like I can have a relationship with a woman on a phone. I don't have to go out and conquer because they feel that connection with the people they're seeing on their screen. So that to me, like, that's where I see the issue is, because if you look at that, like, think about how addicting social media is to some people, and they follow people. I mean, that's why you have these fucking influencers selling their socks and fucking underwear to people.
Bathwater.
But you're right. But that is the shit that happens because people believe they're developing this relationship with these people. So yes, there's no reason for them to go out and try and acquire the things to become that man or that person that could acquire the woman and to get the sex. It's just like, I have a phone. I can pay my phone bill. I'm good. Like, I've got TikTok. I can watch this girl dance naked in front of me all day long. Don't need to do anything. So I think that's a big part of the problem. That may be a crass way of saying it, but
That's a good point.
But I think that's really it, because that is true. Like, if I literally think about, like, just, through my professional career, like, yeah, like that's why men work to a certain extent, to get the girl. Like, it all boils down to that. Like, that's how we're wired, right? And then once you get the girl, your mindset shifts is to provide. Like, married with kids now is to provide a better life, right? But until then, it's like I'm working to find that female, and I've got to put myself above other men by becoming better.
Well, the traditional roles are changing, right? Less people getting married, less people having babies.
That's a big difference.
I mean, so if you're becoming more self-centric about all you really have to worry about is me.
That's a good point.
For a longer period of time. I don't know. It's just a weird dynamic. I'm not saying we can unwind it all, but it just seems interesting. Last question for these two, primarily because you and I have hashed this one out. Do you feel that the following statement is true? That I get to use my hammer again. The tangible world we live in, this thing here, all that we are dealing with, the tangible, real world reality. Because I like to be the master of reality. At least I want to believe that I am. My own reality, right? But this physical reality is competing with the virtual reality. Everything in that phone, everything in that computer, everything on that television, right? To the point where VR and the improvements in technology and the immersion of our being there, do you feel it is now at the same, is it equal to our physical world, do you feel? Or is it not quite there yet? Or do you think it has superseded it as we sit here tonight?
I mean, I think there's a lot of people who it's probably superseded it, and maybe not in the sense that they're spending their entire day on their phone, but people get home from work, sit down on the couch, look at their phone until it's time to go to bed, get up, do the same thing the next day, But I actually think, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I think that you're starting to see some younger people in our generation, and maybe even the generations before or under mine, Rocco mentioned Gabe earlier, who are kind of just like, I want to actually go out and do shit. Like, I'm sick of just looking at my phone all day or watching TV or whatever it is. Like, I want to go, like, explore shit and do stuff. I don't know. Go play I don't know, whatever it is. But,
That's
like,
right.
to go do things again instead of just sitting there and just, like, I'm going to spend my entire life, like, whatever it is, 75 years, just looking at this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. No, I agree with that, definitely.
So I feel like myself, I get very overstimulated from, like, the phone, the computer. So once I get home, I'm okay being done with it all. However, I feel like, especially with my girls, they, like, they could get very immersed in just flipping through the TikToks and trying to, be like the influencers and talking like them and, recreating the videos. And so you have to set very healthy boundaries for them. So yes, I could see in some situations where it's like superseding what reality is actually, which is scary, as a parent, like, you try to limit that and stuff, but they walk down the streets with their friends. You can't control what's going on down there. Their mom doesn't know that they just sat on their phone for an hour prior. So, it's scary to think the amount of exposure they have to the internet and that world.
Rocco and I did 2 podcasts with our sons.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was a hoot. We're trying to corral them for the third one.
That was fun.
But not exactly to that point, but we asked them one final question when they were leaving. We said, what would you rather have? Be bluntly honest with you. The things that you want to buy, it can be anything. Cars, shoes, whatever is important to that generation. Or would you rather have the experience, the money to be used for an experience to go do stuff? And unequivocally, their first answer was, and I don't think they were saying just to please our brains. I think they said, we absolutely would rather, I'd rather go here, go there, go to this concert, go to, they wanted to really spend their money, whatever available money, with experiences. And I looked across the table at him and I said, I don't know what you were like in that area, but I was very materialistic in the 80s, in the 90s. Every little trinket mattered. It superseded experiences. I still wanted to do a couple cool shit, but ultimately, if I could have the Ralph Lauren this or the Rolex this, whatever, if I could obtain those things. And I don't think I was alone. I think it was a very materialistic time, and I'm just glad that at least that little glimpse they gave us, that they really cared more about doing shit, being someplace, experiencing things, as about what they're going to wear on their body or drive. You know what I mean? Right. So there was a little bit I felt there's a little bit of hope from that.
Well, yeah, cause I think to Ben's point, I think if I look at it just from a like zooming out perspective, right? Like we grew up with experiences, so we can use the phone, and we don't. But you guys grew up with the phone and social media, and like Gabe, so it's like that experience that they didn't experience, so now they're craving that because they see it and they see the opportunity for it. So I think it's a shift in their perspective. The shift is happening, I think, because there's too much stimulation now. Like we've gotten to a point where the rate of information has went past our ability to process it.
Right.
Like I feel like we were at a stage where we could process information, and the information was coming at the same rate. We've crossed over where there's too much information for us to process, so it's overload right now.
Right.
So now it's like, how do I get out from that? I want to go experience. Well, that's something I haven't done. Like I know, like Gabe, like that's why he loves going on these trips. Like we're going to Vegas next weekend because it's an experience. It's not about being on social media. They want to experience the world because social media and technology has become so overwhelming. Like I get overstimulated. I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Like I get on my phone. I'm like, there's so much stuff coming at me. Like if I look at my day, like there's probably 100,000 pieces of information coming at me every day. Like I get at least 500 emails a day. Like at least on average 400 to 500 emails a day, plus messages, plus if I go on social media, like my brain's like a fucking muddy mess at the end of the day. So they grew up with that. Like I look at Gabe's phone, like how do you have like 57 unread text messages? Like I'll have like 5 or 10, and I'm like, and that drives me crazy. But he'll have like 50. He's like, I just haven't got to him yet. Like there's so much, so that now I think it's just they want to see the difference.
Sounds
the other
like
side.
Work to me. You know what I mean?
I mean, I have
when your social life becomes work,
emails.
you know, I don't know.
It is. I mean, and I think maybe experiences become vintage too. Like then maybe they see it as like that's what the old people used to do. That's vintage. I mean, we're old people now. Like it's the vintage experience.
Sean and I try really hard to take the girls and do a lot of things with them, even if it's like, you know, day things all day. And truly, they're with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
The majority of the time. So, you know, whether it's going boating with them or doing like weekend trips to like a truck meet or whatever the case may be, like we take them with us.
I think it's hugely important, and I don't think enough of that's happening today.
Yeah.
Observation
Just to
wise.
experience whatever it is that we're doing. Like I want them to be, you know, trips that we go on and whatever it is, like they're with us.
Yeah.
And just to experience it. And sometimes they do get annoyed because they're like, well, why aren't we home with our friends? Like, we want to go with our friends this weekend. And, you know, like my mom has like season tickets to the Pitt game. So they do that every fall. But I feel like just experiencing life versus just hanging out with our friends or being on their phones.
Yeah.
Hanging out sometimes means they're all sitting in a room on their phones.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's frustrating too. It's like, why... Go
do
play
something.
Yeah. Like you're all just sitting
outside.
here on your phones. But I feel like that's so important for them just to go out and see what life is other than let's go do something.
I think experience is so, like, as I've gotten older, like I was like you, like I like material things. And I think there are certain things I like, right? There's certain,
sure.
But like I look at life now as like, it's what can I experience? Like that's why I want to go on weekend trips and do these things because like, I'm 46. Like I'm at the halfway point. Like I want to. That's how I feel though. It's like fuck. Like I'm at the halfway point, but I want to experience these.
I feel I'm at the halfway point.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I live to be 150. I mean, I don't know. That's bad math, but I just
bad math,
but I just think that's because I think that's the world we live in now, and I think it's like I know myself. It's hard for me to sometimes slow down, and being able to take those experiences and do those things gives me that moment, forces me into that pause.
Got it.
So that's how I look at it. So now to me, it's like that's why I do the things I do, why I work the way I do, because I want to be able to take those pauses and experience life because I've got limited time in life. I've got limited. My kids are getting older. Like fucking Ellie's a freshman in high school, which I fucking hate.
Get ready.
Listen, man, I can't deal with it. But I think it's just it's it's life, and I think technology has a place. I think it has a great place. Like, it's helped business tremendously. It's helped me tremendously professionally. Social media and technology has helped me absolutely to the nth degree. But it's also a detriment, and it's our job as individuals to know how to manage it.
It doesn't belong at the dinner table.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I get yelled at sometimes because I'll check my email. Like, if I'm sitting at dinner with the girls and like my phone goes off, they're like, "What are you doing?" Like, well, I was checking my email, and I'm guilty of it because
we all are.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, it's just we need more conversations like this. And that's what life's about. Truly, it is.
Well,
you don't have it that often.
I thank all of you for doing this. I know
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It takes you out of your, it's a committing an evening to it. I know it's time. Our time is precious to everybody, but it means a lot to me that you do it.
It's fun, man.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and I want you all back again.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, no apprehension with these two.
No.
It was very natural. Like, I do get people once in a while, come on, and they're very astute at what they do, or very dynamic people, but they struggle with, I don't know why, but they do. They struggle with the environment.
Yeah.
Because I guess this is formal. Once you get talking, though, it's not formal, right?
We'll have to get Brandon and Dracula.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep doing them.
We have a Dracula in our office. Did you know
A what?
Dracula.
It's Dracula.
Jake.
Yeah. Because his
Jake,
office
I
is
didn't
probably
say that. I
darker
haven't met
than
you yet,
this.
Jake, but I didn't say
He had
that.
to open his blinds this morning when I went into his office because I'm like, I don't even know where you are. I couldn't see him. Like, I was talking to him after. Like, I went in. I'm like, I don't know where you are. Like, he opened his blinds. So I was talking. He just sits in the dark. Gabe literally called him Dracula in that presentation. He's like,
right.
I haven't seen his light on all summer. Like,
They do practice law differently here.
he will be fun to get on, I think, as well.
Again, thank you. Means
Thank
a
you.
lot. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, friends. Cozza Lawcast number 2 in the books.
Yep.
We are out.